Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Gaming the System, the podcast where three intersectional feminists examine gaming and games through a feminist lens. Today, I'm your host, Alex, and I'm joined by Matt. Before we get started, if you want to support us, you can subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/gaming the system for some exclusive content. Or you can send us a one-off donation via PayPal to our email address wearegamingthesystem@gmail.com.
We're going to be talking all things BAFTA Games Awards because they very recently took place at the South Bank Centre in London. For this first part, we're going to be running through the different awards, all the various nominees, and our thoughts on how the whole show went. So, the presenter for the night was a British YouTuber, gamer and presenter known for hosting major gaming events, and her streaming handle is Els the Witch. So I thought she did a really great job, and it's clear from the way she was talking about gaming that she is a gamer and has been for quite a while, so that was positive to see, and I'm sure we'll talk about that in the second half of our coverage. So the first category was multiplayer, and that was presented by Charlie Cox. The nominees were June Awakening, Elden Ring Night Rain, Lego Party, Peak, Split Fiction, and Arc Raiders. And Arc Raiders won the award. So, how are your thoughts on multiplayer? Have you played any of those? And do you think Arc Raiders was a deserved winner?
It's not very well defined because they're more co-op than multiplayer, because Arc Raiders is a group of four. I think pretty much all of them, they're a four-person player games, so they're more co-op. But in the Arc Raiders, it's successful, but it's just another extraction shooter, and there are billions of them now, and what makes one successful is a bit of a mystery. But in terms of, it should be an artistic thing, maybe.
It was nice to see a variety of different types of multiplayer games. And you've said it is basically essentially mostly co-op anyway. But I mean in terms of the settings and the worlds in which each of them are taking place, there's a nice variety there, rather than it all being sort of typical shooters. And which you see quite often. If you think of multiplayer gaming, I think that's what most people would think of. So I thought it was nice to see a little bit of variety, but yeah, maybe they could have broken down that category a little more into those separate types, or maybe they just wanted to showcase a larger breadth of the type of multiplayer games available. So this is for any game released between the 16th of November 2024 and the 14th of November 2025. Which is interesting because obviously it's the 2026 Games Awards, or rather the 22nd Awards, but they are actually hosted in 2026. So it's a little bit of a sort of lag, as it were, in terms of the games that we're actually getting awards at this point in time. You understand, I've only played Split Fiction out of those games that were up for nomination, and I have heard good things about Raiders as well. So I can't comment necessarily as to whether it was good or bad. But yeah, I do think maybe they could, if we were introducing new categories, maybe a co-op category would be the way to go in future. It was a tricky category. I think for a lot of categories, you saw like the first three, you were like, oh, this is difficult. And then the rest would come and you'd be like, oh no, how would you even be able to choose? Because there's so many good games within their own right in each of the categories. It's very difficult. So I think they had a hard job on their hands, definitely. The next category that was up was for artistic achievement, and that was presented by Alice's Pixels, Player Obscure Expedition 33, Dispatch, Death Stranding 2 on the Beach, Ghost of Yote, Hollow Knight Silk Soul, and South of Midnight. And the winner for artistic achievement was Death Stranding 2 on the Beach. And do we have any thoughts on that category?
So I'm torn because this Death Stranding 2 on the beach I loved it. I binged it for 80 hours over 2 weeks, absolutely consumed it. And I've just bought it on PC now and it's installed. Just loved it. Gameplay, fantastic. World, fantastic. Story, rubbish. Really rubbish. So it's not a flawless experience all the way through. I look at these other ones and they're all good, but Clair Obscur has hit the transcendent barrier that is absolutely, it's one of those bits of art where I go, I can't believe this exists. I can't believe that human hands crafted this thing. So I am stunned how few awards Clair Obscur won in this. If anything in my mind, that if I'd successfully executed it to the best that I can imagine where I am now, if I was nominated for this and I won and I was next to Clair Obscur, I would give it to Clair Obscur. I would come up and say, I'm very proud of what I've made, but it is nowhere near what Clair Obscur has achieved. And that's how I feel about a lot of these things. So, yeah, I am torn.
It was the most successful game of the night with, I won't say who, but we'll say at the end. But yeah, it has basically swept up pretty much most of the other video game awards shows for this year, which include when it was released. So I was surprised that it didn't win more categories. Maybe they were trying to be a little bit more even-handed. I don't know. I'm not sure what went on there. But yeah, this was a tough category again. They're all games I'd like to play. I've only played most of Yote out of those. And even then, I've not made it all the way through the game yet. But I definitely feel like it merits a nomination at the very least. So again, it's another stacked category.
A problem that is coming along with graphics these days, especially with the Unreal Engine 5, is incredible, like realistic, not just realistic, but artistically impressive visuals, is that they can be used to mask poor gameplay and poor otherwise designed elements of the game. And the Clair Obscur doesn't look hyper-real. It's like a canvas. It's literally like a painting that has been transformed and translated into computer versions. So it looks incredible because it is pure artistry. And still, games like Ghost of Yote and Death Stranding, the root of it is how good the human faces look and how the environment looks. There's nothing in Clair Obscur looks like it has just been copied and pasted from anywhere. Because in most things, the ground looks the same, the trees look the same. But something where literally everything feels like it was handcrafted, even though they bought a ton of it, most of it from the Unreal Engine marketplace, but still made it look like nothing I've ever seen before. And Death Stranding uses the same game engine as the Horizon games. So that's why it looks so spectacular.
Next category, I wasn't sure what it even meant. And it's for the best evolving game. And I think that became clear to me while I was looking at the nominations. It's essentially games that came out perhaps even years ago, but are getting a lot of developer support after release and getting a lot of DLC and extra additional content and sort of new extra content on top of the original game. And the nominees for it are Fallout 76, Helldivers 2, No Man's Sky, Hitman World of Assassination, Vampire Survivors, and Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2. And the winner was No Man's Sky. And this was a bit of a surprise to me. I always forget about No Man's Sky. It was a win for my local area because the developers Hello Games are actually based in Guildford. So that was quite nice. And they seemed genuinely like overwhelmed and like delighted to have won. But again, I've not played any of these. I know, Matt, you're absolutely besotted with Hitman World of Assassination, to put it lightly. So how did you feel on hearing who won that category?
I was livid with this for two reasons. One, because Hitman has been a transcendent amount of awesome new content over the years, especially the last 2 years, because they've had Bruce Lee mission, they've just had a Resident Evil mission, they've had an awesome Jean-Claude Van Damme mission. They did a Conor McGregor mission that was really good, but again, Conor McGregor. So they removed that from the store, but if you just replaced him with another MMA fighter, it would have worked fine. Hitman 3 came out in 2020. It was one of the launch titles for the PS5. It was an awesome game, just an awesome experience from start to finish, beginning, middle, and end, and tied up the trilogy nicely. And then they've been maintaining it through the freelancer roguelike version, and then adding in these elusive target missions as well. So I think it should have won because of that. But No Man's Sky can go and fuck themselves, because when the game released, they promised literally the moon and the stars. They said this was going to be the most incredible space opera that had ever existed. You've got an infinite universe, and you're going to be finding infinite planets with these incredible flora and fauna. And then you're going to meet all these alien civilizations. You're going to be able to be a space pirate or a merchant. You're going to be in the middle of these grand, incredible things, literally the entire list of possible things. And it came out, and you fly around in a tiny ship. You mine with a mining laser, where you point the laser at something, it goes, and then it runs out of battery. You have to wait for a few seconds. So you mine like that. You find these ridiculous, cartoonish, artificially generated flora and fauna. And then any alien you meet, they just garble to you. And all the alien in these space stations, and the ships are rubbish. And it was a fraction of what they promised, because they had made tons of money from the pre-orders and the people buying it for the first time. They made a shitload of money, but then over the next 10 years, it came out in 2016, they have been putting in things and evolving it since then. But because you put an amoeba out and then go, oh, it's evolved into a fish, isn't this fish amazing? You don't get credit for the amoeba, because the amoeba's easy. And so this really, really frustrated me. One, because my game was robbed. And two, because this game studio just really fucked over their fans. And just because they've finished it, they've been continuing to add to it. It's similar with Fallout 76, because Todd Howard, who's the head of Bethesda, who's been the game director on Fallout and The Elder Scrolls, he came out and said that it doesn't matter where you start, but where you end up. So he goes, you release it, and then you fix it, then you add things to it. And that is the absolute worst possible take for game developers to take. Because for them, it's just, we do less work, and we get all the money. Whereas for us, we give them the money, and then we get the less. So No Man's Sky can do one for me.
When they were picking up the award, they were reflecting on how it had been 10 years since the initial release, and also how much younger and perhaps more naive they were then. So perhaps it was just someone who was very young and excited. You don't know, do you? But yeah, definitely something to think about. And I do think that the gaming landscape has changed since in the decades that we've been gaming, for sure.
They always keep all the money. It doesn't matter, oh yeah, it was a rough journey and yeah, we were quite young and idealistic, but you kept the money. So it doesn't matter what you say, you kept the money. If you said, oh yeah, we overpromised and undelivered, so we've cut everything since then will be free. Every single change we'll make will be free, and we will pack all the money that we saved by not doing it properly first time. We will pack all of that into ongoing content. So again, they could do one.
So the next category was performer in a supporting role, and that was presented by Angela St. Albanese and Nick Apostolides. I am sorry, I completely butchered that. You should think someone learning Greek would know how to pronounce that a little better. Performer in a supporting role. Now, Alex Wilton Reagan, who we know is upcoming Lara Croft, but in this nomination she was for Lee Florence Monad in Lies of P Overture. Also up for the award was Charlie Cox as Gustav in Clair Obscura Expedition 33. Jane Perry as Leah Kane in Dead Take. Jeffrey Wright as Chase in Dispatch. Kirsty Ryder as Lynn in Clair Obscura 33. And Troy Baker as Higgs in Death Stranding 2 on the Beach. And the winner for this one was Jeffrey Wright as Chase in Dispatch. I don't think he was available to actually pick up the award in person. But I had no idea Jeffrey Wright was in Dispatch, so that was news to me. Definitely.
The cast of Dispatch is wild.
Yeah.
It's got a ridiculous gamut of people in it. It's got Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad as the main character, and that's wild. And then Milana Pierce as one of the characters.
That's right.
Just all over the place. And again, that's another thing where I have an issue with and I don't know what the right answer is to it, but the complexity of the game design is what role that should play, because Dispatch is a 2D sort of interactive comic book thing, but then in Dead Take is basically it's actual filmed stuff, and it's got Jane Perry, who's in Hitman, as Diana, and it's got Ben Starr, and it's got names Astarian actor.
Yeah, newborn.
And then you go to, and the Lies of P is an indie game that's like a Dark Souls thing. But then you get Clair Obscur, and that is just a completely different universe in terms of art. And I don't know if you can take a very, in terms of like tangible complexity, how do you choose between? And I don't see how some of these things can be put against each other. I feel like this for a lot of things. It feels like in Lies of P Overture, there's practically no dialogue in it. And do you know who the people who choose these games are for the awards?
So for the 22nd BAFTA Games Awards, the following changes were announced. To bring the voting process more in line with the Films Awards, BAFTA has created 3 additional craft chapters, allowing only members with experience in art, audio and performance to participate in the first round of voting in their respective categories. And those are artistic achievement, audio achievement, performer in a leading role and performer in a supporting role. So this category we're just discussing now. These chapters join the already established chapters who vote in the game design and technical achievement categories. Previously, the entire BAFTA membership would vote on these categories during round 1. So that first round of voting is more specialised. The criteria for 2 performance categories has been amended to allow individuals to submit a supporting clip reel to highlight the best representation of their performance. And then it says about the criteria for animation, artistic achievement, audio achievement, game design, narrative, music, and technical achievement categories has been amended to allow greater representation in nominations for individuals who made a significant creative contribution in their respective area. That was quite a long sentence.
I couldn't help but compare this to the Game Awards, because the Game Awards was, again, utter spectacular. And this was really disappointing just in terms of the presentation. And again, the choices themselves, obviously art is subjective, but even within the bounds of subjective, maybe I don't know how you feel about this. Is there a ranking of things that are objectively higher quality than some? Is there a hierarchy of things where you go, right, this is more beautiful, more objectively excellent than some other ones? And I don't know.
Because it is so subjective as well. I mean, I was just glad that there seemed to be more variety than I have seen in previous award shows, which I think shows that they are trying to be more representative of the types of games that our community gets to play, which is one of the things we love to talk about on the pod, is that games aren't just one thing. There are lots and lots of different things, and they can mean different things to different people. One person's amazing game might not be the most graphically enhanced, but it might mean a great deal to them in terms of like their life and their circumstance, whereas another person might find the most super hyper real game to actually mean more to them than a game that's maybe like a 2D scroller or something like that. I am very aware that the time for this episode is rapidly slipping away, and we have not yet reached the halfway point of the 17 different categories that we've got to get through. So what I think we'll do is maybe get halfway through for this episode and then do the other half for the next episode. And then we can come back for a look into all of those things that we want to discuss in more detail, the controversies surrounding this ceremony and previous BAFTA ceremonies, and also what we always love to discuss on the pod, which is representation, inclusion, etc. The sorts of things that we're arguing for more of within the gaming industry. So, without further ado, I'm going to crack on and tell you all about the nominees for British Game, which was presented by Jade Scott and Dan TDM. I believe it was the Jade from The Traitors, which was quite interesting to see as well, because she, all the way through The Traitors, talked about how she was a gamer and how that would be a useful skill for her, which I thought was quite interesting. She's incredibly tall. I hadn't realised how tall she was. So that was nice to see. Let's have a look. British Game. So we've got Citizen Sleeper 2, Starward Vector, Mafia: The Old Country, Monument Valley 3, Atomfall, Power Wash Simulator 2, and 2 Point Museum. And the winner for that one was Atomfall. And I, again, have not played any of these games, but I've certainly seen lots and lots of content around them and watched lots of gameplay videos of Atomfall because it seemed a very intriguing setting for me. It was up in, I believe it was somewhere around Yorkshire or somewhere, perhaps even Peak District. But it's all around sort of what would have happened if there had been a nuclear disaster and if it was covered up, what would happen. And it was all sort of kind of steampunky. There was lots of big robot police going around and zombies underground and all sorts of interesting local colour. And telephone boxes you'd have to answer the phone to, and there would be a mysterious voice on the other end saying to kill one of the villagers. All very interesting stuff. Very sort of in the mould of a Fallout type game, but I guess just like a British version of it. So it was very interesting, and I think definitely one to check out in the future for me. And I'm just, again, I think it's trying to showcase the variety of games and the strength of the industry in this country in particular, because it is pretty much a big, particularly in the area I'm living in Surrey, there's a pretty big population of games developers local to me. I know they're obviously spread all across the country, but yeah, it was interesting to see there are a few other local game developers in that category as well.
I think I'll suit a Game Awards thing, but I'm feeling my massively judgmental side is really being triggered by a lot of these things. I think I see on this list and I go, this doesn't belong on this. It's nowhere near as good as some of these other things.
Brings out a lot of emotions in people. This is what we love about these sorts of things. Well, it's kind of a double-edged sword, isn't it, really? Because obviously they're designed to celebrate gaming and games and things like that. But at the same time, you know, is it a bit unfair to hold one game up to the top and kind of feel like the others are a little bit disregarded when actually all of them can be celebrated equally, really? That's, like we said, we've discussed it in previous episodes, so feel free to check those out. But definitely an interesting one. I'm really enjoying how we're taking different things from it as well. Good. At this point in the ceremony, there was a break for a performance by an artist who's also apparently, I think, involved in streaming on Twitch, but I'm not entirely sure. I will have to check back and verify that for us. But her name was Talia Ma, and she performed a song called Lady, and I want to come back to that in a future episode because I feel like it's very relevant to our discussions and highlighted some things which for some people might have felt out of place at a BAFTA Video Game Awards ceremony, and for others might have felt like, finally, this is being highlighted. So I'll come back to that. We'll pop a pin in it. The next award presented for animation was presented by Abu Bakr Salim, who we all know as the voice of Bayek from Assassin's Creed Origins and good friend of popular people in the gaming community, Alana Pierce and Troy Baker and Ben Starr and Austin Wintory, etc. They're all in they have a lovely friendship group going on. And he's also a game developer in his own right. He has created a couple of games now, in fact, I think. But for the category of animation, we have Battlefield 6, Death Stranding 2 on the Beach, Ghost of Yotei, Dispatch, Hades 2, and Hollow Knight Silk Salt. And the winner for that one was Dispatch, which Abu was incredibly pleased about and did a massive fist pump on stage and eventually shouted the name. And so that was very fun to watch. He was clearly really keen that they should have won that one as well. What were your thoughts on that?
Again, like Ghost of Yotei and Death Stranding are just... they have to be a cut above these other ones.
Ooh.
And then Battlefield 6, one odd...
Yeah, I did think that was a bit of an outlier.
And no Claire Obscure.
Yeah.
It just feels like it just doesn't make sense to me, and that just rubs me up the wrong way.
Yeah. I realise I have missed a category, only one though. That was prior to animation, and that was game design. And that was presented by Jane Douglas and Lucy James. And I believe one of them, Jane, and possibly even Lucy, are both on Outside Xbox. So if you follow that channel on YouTube, you'll know them particularly well. Game design. G for game. There we are. So we've got, again, a real mixture of different types of games here. Ball X Pit, Claire Obscure Expedition 33, Ghosts of Yotei, Hades 2, Split Fiction, and Blueprints. And the winner for that one was Blueprints, which I think was very nice to see because it's an indie game, obviously. It kind of was a smash hit when it came out. It's a very in-depth puzzle game. Got lots and lots of layers to it. Type of game I'd be interested in playing, but I feel like it's in the same sort of sphere as like games like The Witness, where you've got a sort of entry-level puzzles and then it becomes incredibly complicated and complex. And unless you take the time to actually sit there with a notepad and start making notes and going back and forth and all these things, you're going to get stuck pretty quickly. So for the in-depth, hardcore puzzle experience, I'd say Blueprints, it looks like it's going to be a good time for you. But I have yet to try it. It is on my list of games to play. But the guy accepting the award seemed very an interesting character, and had never made a game before, I don't think, from what I could tell. So I think that was really nice to see him win that award, definitely.
Yeah, I'd not heard of that one. I guess another very vague category, because game design is literally everything. And I would take that to mean the management of the project, how you corral a group of people into making something as complex as, again, Claire Obscure. How you manage that is just, that's crazy.
And there's a lot of broad categories that could be interpreted in a number of ways. So, yeah, and I think the explanations they did try to give beforehand was sort of also equally vague, but they did try. I think this might be the last one for today. We had technical achievement. So I guess how far they're pushing the tech in terms of what it can achieve, I would gather. That was presented by Lee Petty. Apologies if I pronounced that wrong. Technical achievement, we've got the nominees are Ark Raiders, Death Stranding 2 on the Beach, Doom, The Dark Ages, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, Split Fiction, and Ghost of Yotei. And the winner for that one was Ghost of Yotei. And I was very pleased about that because I was waiting, because I'm playing it at the moment. And obviously you get recency bias and you're like, this game's the best game. It should win all of the things. So I was quite glad to see it win that one. But yeah, again, it was pretty stacked in terms of the types of games or the breadth of games on display there. But I mean, there are some games I'm not familiar with, like Ark Raiders and Doom. I'm sure they are very good in terms of technical achievement. And again, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, it pretty looks like most AAA games that you find these days. I'd say Split Fiction would have been my next pick if I had to pick any other game except Ghost of Yotei, because of the way that obviously they had to design it for 2 players, and they've designed all of the different levels, even from a gameplay perspective, the different types of gameplay within that game. Pretty much, I struggle to put it onto one hand, the different types of ways in which you can interact with that game and kind of make your way through the story. So I think that is definitely pretty high up in terms of technical achievement, but then I might be coming at it from the wrong angle. I don't know.
My perspective on this is that how far removed it is from other games in that genre, because there's nothing revolutionary about the gameplay in any of them apart from Death Stranding. But then Death Stranding, compared to Split Fiction, is far less complex because it's got one gameplay loop. And it's a really good one, and it's unusual and unique. But Split Fiction is every game type there's ever been, and made by a much smaller studio. Indiana Jones is just another stealth shooter. It's copied literally from the Wolfenstein series. Doom is a lot less of a technical achievement than Doom Eternal, because they've made it much simpler and slower. They've gotten rid of the kill animations. Every single kill takedown is you punch them and they explode. And so it's less technically impressive than the last one. And Ghost of Yotei is really good, but it is built on the foundation of Ghost of Tsushima. So I think, Split Fiction was robbed.
Yeah, there we are then. Well, I think this will have to draw to a close this half of our exploration of this year's BAFTA Games Awards. And we have, as expected, as we always do, we have too much to talk about in one episode. So we're going to come back for part 2 and cover the rest of the awards and nominations. So if you want to hear from us about the rest of that, do come back for episode 2. We have new episodes every Thursday. So we look forward to hearing from you. Let us know what you think of our takes on the awards nominees and winners. Did you have any games you feel like should have been included that weren't? Or do you agree with us? Or do you agree with BAFTA in the spaces where we've disagreed? So yeah, just let us know and share it far and wide. We always love to have new listeners. So thank you very much, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed that episode of Gaming the System. If you want to support us, you can donate to us through our PayPal by sending it to wearegamingthesystem@gmail.com if you want to send us a one-off donation. If you want to donate to us monthly, you can subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/gamingthesystem. Until next time, bye-bye.